At dinner, Mom boasted about my sister's 4-bedroom mansion, so I finally spoke. I make more than both of them combined. Silence fell. What followed was an ear-splitting stillness. Halfway to her mouth, my mom's fork halted. Perched dangerously on the tines was a slice of grilled salmon. My stepfather Richard finally looked up from his phone, and my sister Amelia's wine glass lingered on her lips. It was the first time he had done so all evening. It took me 3 years to finally say it. Over the course of 3 years, I endured subtle insults, passive-aggressive comments, and the stigma of being the family disappointment. Now I was having my moment, sitting at this pricey cafe that Mom had picked out because it was near Amelia's new house. I must digress, however, for the story does not begin with supper. I was 13 years old and Amelia was 15 when the pattern started. It wasn't until I was 33 years old that I was able to finally overcome it. Amelia had the best childhood ever. She possessed an air of natural charisma that grown-ups couldn't help but admire. She was 2 years older, athletically gifted, and academically gifted. I was the introvert who preferred to stay home and read than mingle with my friends. The relationship between my parents further worsened once my mother remarried Martin 2 years after our divorce, which occurred when I was 9 years old. From his first marriage, Martin inherited a daughter, but she and her mother lived in a different nation. His surrogate daughter, Amelia, became someone he could like and be proud of in no time. Well, I basically vanished into thin air. A full scholarship allowed Amelia to attend college. To help cover the costs of my community college education, I worked part-time in a bookshop. After finishing college, Amelia landed a well-paying marketing position. While I sought to define my life's purpose, I labored through a number of administrative and retail jobs. Daniel, Amelia's college sweetheart, was married in a grandiose ceremony that was mostly covered by Mom and Martin. Family dinner chats suggested that I was still single and focused on my profession, which they took as a sign that I couldn't maintain a relationship. The problem is, I wasn't having quite as much trouble as they anticipated. I was stealthily constructing my own life while Amelia had the idyllic existence everyone had imagined. I'd always had an innate talent for math and a firm grasp of how the financial markets worked. Before transitioning into financial consulting, I worked as a freelance bookkeeper for local companies. Even though I was making a respectable living, I chose to live frugally and not flaunt my prosperity. In the meanwhile, Amelia's picture-perfect life began to crumble. Daniel was more happy with his middle management job and weekend golf games than she had anticipated. He lacked ambition. Their marriage devolved into a string of pricey acquisitions and passive-aggressive social media posts meant to portray an unauthentic joy. To Mom and Martin, though, it was all irrelevant. The one with the spouse, the beautiful home, and the Instagram-worthy life was still Amelia, the successful one. At family reunions, they still had to find an excuse to explain myself because I was the one who let them down. 3 years ago, things finally broke down. Ethan, an amazing architect, and I had been in a committed relationship for the first time in years. I was truly happy after 9 months of being with him. At last, I hoped I'd have something that would change my family's perception of me. I took Ethan to celebrate Amelia's birthday with her. It was a major event. Everyone from her inner circle as well as our extended relatives showed up because she reserved a private room at a fancy restaurant. Despite my nerves, I couldn't wait to meet everyone and introduce Ethan. It was evident that Amelia had her sights set on him within the hour. She spoke over him, had him laugh a little too much, and used his arm as an excuse to make her point. I tried to jump in on their chat, but she always managed to change the subject to something I didn't understand, or bring up memories that only Daniel and I had. The most upsetting part was seeing the expression of joy on Ethan's face whenever she spoke to him. He would inevitably be captivated by Amelia's irresistible charm. She had always had that kind of charisma. She was chatting about an architecture project that her marketing agency was working on, and by the end of the night, he had exchanged business cards with her. After a fortnight, Ethan ended our relationship. He told me we wouldn't be a good fit in the long run, despite his admiration for my character, and that he couldn't see us being together. Some 3 months later, I came across pictures on Amelia's Instagram where she and Daniel were seated at a dining table with Ethan and his new fiancée. From what I can tell, that business link was the catalyst for their friendship. It was irrelevant that I was never told whether Amelia and Ethan had an illicit relationship. The fact that Amelia had appropriated something from me, and turned it into something about her, was what was important. My loved ones pretended like nothing had happened again. I got down to brass tacks then. I had had enough of attempting to get their respect or approval. Creating the life I want would take precedence, and I would not let anyone in on the secret if they failed to recognize my value. With renewed vigor, I dove headfirst into my task. I went into business for myself as a financial consultant, specializing in helping small and medium-sized companies, SMEs, that larger companies disregarded. For some reason I excelled at it. Helping business owners maximize earnings while reducing risks was my specialty, and I had a gift for identifying opportunities that others missed. I was generating more money in a year than I ever imagined imaginable. I out-earned Amelia and Daniel put together in just over 2 years. Just across town, I purchased a stunning home in a hip neighborhood. A renovated Craftsman from the 1930s with original hardwood flooring, a beautiful garden, and enough character to make design magazines green with envy, not a McMansion like Amelia's. Oh, and I also crossed paths with Samuel. Samuel again, but this one is very different from my stepfather. A pediatric surgeon, he had gentle eyes and a sharp wit. Pretending or making an impression on anyone was something he couldn't care less about. In his spare time, he volunteered at a clinic for low-income families while working long hours at the Children's Hospital. 6 months after we moved in together, he proposed. Our relationship lasted a year. The proposal was understated. On a peaceful Sunday morning, as we sipped our coffee in the garden and perused the newspaper, he asked me. It was a basic ring, yet it was gorgeous. After I confirmed his proposal, he kissed me passionately, like if I were his most prized possession. I was hesitant to immediately inform my family about our engagement. I was relishing in the joy, shielding it from their boundless criticism and lack of excitement. It was clear to Samuel. Protecting positive things from harmful family dynamics was second nature to him because of his upbringing by a narcissistic mother. Rather, I let my mind wander to the future I envisioned for myself. My husband Samuel and I chose to have a modest, close-knit wedding with only our closest friends and the relatives who were there to celebrate with us. An old inn with gardens that looked out over the lake was the perfect location we found. We worked with a florist, a photographer, and a caterer that focused on serving food straight from the farm. We also planned to host a housewarming party to celebrate the occasion. We didn't want to brag because we had worked so hard to create this lovely place and wanted to share it with those important to us. Our closest friends, Samuel's hospital co-workers, some of my business clients who became friends, and most importantly, Samuel's family, wonderful people who welcomed me with open arms, were all invited. Not inviting Amelia, Richard or my mom was an intentional decision on my part. There was no animosity behind it. The primary motivation was safeguarding my happiness, while vengeance played a little role. They had spent decades lowering my self-esteem and making me feel unimportant. That kind of vibe wasn't going to be welcome in my lovely new house. A mystical celebration was held. On the back patio, we arranged tables and placed lights throughout the yard. I had a fantastic spread of food prepared with the help of Samuel's chef sister-in-law. Guests greeted our home with laughter and mingling. The parents of Samuel rounded me out to express their gratitude for the impact I had on their son. In her toast, my best friend Leah expressed her admiration for the life I had created. There were so many kind, supportive people there, and the atmosphere was perfect for a housewarming party. Seeing all those joyful faces brought a feeling of kinship that I had never had with my own family before. Eventually my mom found out, of course. Everyone knew each other in this little town, and there were even some friends who didn't know about the family conflict who posted about it online. Mom gave me a call around 1 month following the celebration. I could hear the hurt and uncertainty beneath her bland tone as she said, "Leah, I heard you had some kind of party at your house." "Yes," I responded plainly. "A housewarming party." "Oh." This was followed by a lengthy silence. "That sounds nice. I wish I'd known about it." "It was lovely," I responded, avoiding the underhandedness. "Here we go again. Well, maybe next time you could let us know. We would have loved to see your new place." My response was a simple, maybe, even though I and my companion were well aware that there would be no another opportunity. Until then, that was about all. Mom would mention wanting to see the house every once in a while, and I would respond with vagueness. Taking a different tack, Amelia asked me pointed questions about my new life and proposed that we all meet together for dinner soon. My deflection was courteous, but forceful. At the same time, my real life was going swimmingly. The expansion of my company was outpacing my ability to manage it. Samuel and I tied the knot in a beautiful little ceremony. There were members of his family, my best friend Leah, a handful of close friends, and a celebrant who had known Samuel from his youth. While on our honeymoon in Italy, we slept in quaint towns, indulged in delicious cuisine, and felt our love deepen with each passing day. Everyone, including ourselves, was amazed by how easily we adjusted to married life upon our return. I would consult with clients and grow my business from the comfort of my home office, while Samuel would wake up early to make rounds at the hospital. Every night after work, We'd get in the kitchen and catch up on each other's days. On weekends, we would tend to the garden, try out local eateries, or host friends for informal dinners. It was a life of peace and contentment. Additionally, I experienced an unprecedented sense of tranquility. However, my family couldn't stand the quiet for very long, as I was about to discover. A Tuesday afternoon was the time of the phone call. My phone rang as I was going over a new client's financial statements. I didn't want to let it go to voicemail when I saw Mom's name on the screen, so I answered. My mom's voice seemed noticeably louder than normal when she said, "Leah, honey, I have some exciting news." I was suddenly on high alert. Oh, Amelia and Daniel bought a new house. It's absolutely gorgeous. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, a gourmet kitchen, and a 3-car garage. It's in that new development on the north side of town, you know, where all the young professionals are moving. As she went into depth about the house, I made the right noises to indicate that I was listening. The description sounded just like the kind of mansion Amelia would pick. Grand, pricey, and built to impress rather than to accommodate everyday life. Next month she's organizing a housewarming celebration, Mom went on to say. The whole family's invited, of course. I'm so excited to see everyone together. It's been too long since we've all been in the same place. It wasn't subtle that the emphasis was on all. This was Mom's method of making sure I knew I was to be the responsible, encouraging younger sister. That sounds pleasant, I remarked. You'll come, won't you? Amelia specifically asked me to make sure you'd be there. She's so excited to show off the house. Without a doubt, she was. As the less accomplished sibling whose presence accentuated Amelia's achievements, I had always provided the ideal audience for her successes. I'll have to check my schedule, I informed myself. Oh, come on, Nora. It's family, whatever you have going on can wait. I was on the verge of laughing at how casually they disregarded my time and obligations. Even though my job was much more profitable than Amelia's, Mom still considered it a hobby that I could put aside whenever my family needed me. A resolute, "I will inform you," came out of my lips. Well, don't wait too long. Amelia needs a headcount for catering. Long after the call ended, I remained seated in my office, gazing out onto the landscape that Samuel and I had collaborated on. A part of me considered just turning down the invitation and staying home. Still, I couldn't help but be intrigued. I was curious to see the house that had necessitated such a show. I was curious to witness whether Amelia and Daniel were truly happy or just acting it out. Perhaps I was curious to see how my loved ones would respond to the changed me. That evening, upon returning home from the hospital, Samuel discovered me standing there. His words, "You look thoughtful," were accompanied by a kiss on my head. He was informed about the invitation and the phone call by me. As usual, he listened without passing judgment. He then asked, "Do you want to go?" once I had finished. I'm not sure. Part of me thinks it would be masochistic, but part of me is curious about the house, about whether they've changed at all, about whether they can see who I am now, or if they'll still treat me like the disappointing little sister who can't get her life together. For an instant, Samuel remained silent. You know that their opinion of you doesn't change who you are, right? You've built an amazing life. You're successful, you're happy, you're loved. Whether they can see that or not is their problem, not yours. Saying, "I know," I continued, "but I spent so many years trying to earn their approval. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever be completely free of that. Maybe going would help you find out." Obviously, he was correct. The day after that, I contacted Mom to let her know that Samuel and I would be going. Everything about the housewarming party met my expectations. The mansion was massive and clinical, furnished with pricey pieces that gave the impression of having been hand-picked by an interior designer rather than a loving family. Roughly 50 individuals showed up, and I didn't recognize the majority of them. Amelia extended an invitation to her co-workers, gym buddies, book club members, and a number of strangers who lived in her neighborhood. It was less of a party and more of a networking gathering. As usual, Amelia appeared stunning. She looked stunning in a designer gown that would have put most people's mortgage payments in the red, and her hair and cosmetics were also impeccable. Still, her smile was fragile, and her flitting from group to group to make sure everyone was gawking at her stunning house spoke of desperation. Daniel was regaling the crowd by the bar with tales of his college football heyday, just like he had done for years. He looked weak and defeated, and I couldn't help but feel sorry for him because of his weight increase and hair loss. playing the role of the jubilant parents and bragging about their daughter's achievements to anyone who would listen, was Richard and Mom, at their most comfortable. Without ever stating my name or occupation, they introduced Samuel and me to a handful of individuals as Amelia's sister and her husband. Samuel felt my hand tighten as soon as he realized. A soft whisper of, "How are you doing?" came from him. More pleasant than I had anticipated, I thought to myself. Rather of being upset, I felt disconnected while seeing this performance. I no longer cared about the characters in this story, and these individuals were complete strangers to me. I hated the house tour. As she guided groups of guests through the house, Amelia pointed out the pricey furnishings and elaborate details. The walk-in closet in the master bedroom was larger than the one in my previous apartment. The kitchen was equipped with all new, high-quality appliances. The 12-person table in the formal dining room seemed uninviting and chilly. We were briefly alone in the kitchen, and Amelia asked, "What do you think?" afterwards. "I must say, it's truly remarkable," I remarked in actuality. "I realize it's bigger than what you're used to," she continued, flashing that usual condescending smile. "But Daniel and I are planning for the future. We want to have kids, and we want them to have space to grow." It was obvious, my house was too cramped and unfit for somebody with lofty goals. That remark would have hurt more 3 years ago. Now all I could do was feel bad for her. She seemed taken aback by my tone, as she studied me intently as I said, "It's beautiful, Amelia. I hope you'll be very happy here," saying, "You seem different," she continued. "Do I?" More confident. "I guess it suits you." It was a compliment she'd never really offered me before, and I was truly moved. "I am grateful," I murmured. "I'm happy." She said, "Good." And for an instant it appeared as though she truly meant it. As for the remainder of the gathering, nothing went wrong. Even my parents, who were clearly amazed by Samuel's achievements and his evident dedication to me, were captivated by him. We departed early the following day, stating that he had an early procedure. As we made our way home, Samuel inquired, "Was it precisely what you were hoping for? Expensive, impressive, and devoid of any genuine character? And what are your thoughts on that?" I reflected on it, feeling a sense of relief. That life, the mansion, the ideal marriage, the acceptance of one's family, was something I used to aspire to. Despite the admiration it would receive from my family, I knew it would only bring me misery after viewing it in person. Particularly at that moment, because it would imply that I had to change into someone else to get something that ought to have been offered to me for free. Quietness enveloped us as we continued our journey home. Gratitude washed over me as I gazed at our house. Beautiful, humble, character-filled, as we pulled into our driveway. Home was here. That was sufficient. This was the pinnacle. For some reason, I assumed that was going to be all. By witnessing Amelia's new existence, I was able to affirm my desire for none of it, and demonstrate to myself that I had progressed beyond relying on my family's approval. Everything is resolved. However, it is not easy for families, particularly dysfunctional ones, to let go. The remarks began a few weeks subsequent to the celebration. In her inoffensive phone calls, Mom would drop hints about Amelia's impending house decorating or Daniel's plans to get a boat to complement his 3-car garage. Samuel and I were asked when we were planned to upgrade, and there were subtle jabs about my modest abode. Amelia began sharing more photos and videos on social media, chronicling her splurges and DIY endeavors. A redesign of the picture-perfect kitchen, new furnishings, and expert landscaping. Their ever-increasingly lavish and, to be honest, unaffordable lifestyle was on full display in every post. The source of the funds began to elude me. Although Amelia's marketing earnings were respectable, they were insufficient to cover such extravagant expenditure. Although not particularly remarkable, Daniel's pay was adequate. They appeared to be adding costs to their budget on a weekly basis, and the house alone must have put a strain on their budget. When Samuel and I encountered Daniel at the supermarket on a Saturday morning, it validated my concerns. He seemed anxious and exhausted. A strained smile spread across Daniel's face as Samuel spoke of the lovely new home. "Oh, it's fantastic," he exclaimed. "A little more than we bargained for financially speaking, but Amelia has her heart set on making it perfect." "These things have a way of working out," Samuel replied with an air of tact. "I hope so," he said. "Between us, the mortgage payments are significant. I'm considering taking a weekend job and picking up extra shifts at work." I felt a twinge of sorrow for him. I could tell that the pressure was taking a toll on Daniel, who wasn't exactly the most driven person on the planet, but was basically good at heart. "If you ever need any financial advice, I do consulting work. I might be able to help you figure out a budget that works," I remarked. A look of true appreciation spread across Daniel's face. I gave him my number and urged him to call me if he wanted to talk. He said, "Really? That would be amazing. Amelia keeps saying, we just need to make more money, but I think we might need to spend less instead." And so we exchanged numbers. Samuel shook his head as we drove home. "You realize Amelia's going to hate that, right? Her little sister helping her husband with money problems." "Probably," I responded. "But Daniel seems like he's drowning, and I can't just watch that happen. Even after everything, Daniel never did anything to me. His only crime was marrying my sister." He chuckled. "You're a better person than I am. I'd probably let him sink just to spite her." "No, you wouldn't. You would do what I'm doing because it's the right thing to do." He extended his hand and squeezed mine briefly. Daniel never contacted, saying, "This is why I love you." It didn't totally shock me. Either he independently decided against it, or Amelia discovered our communication and ended it. In any case, it was likely for the best. Financial counseling was just the latest drama in my already troubled extended family. The spending, however, and the social media posts detailing it, persisted. I couldn't tell who Amelia was competing with, but it seemed like she was. The posts started coming more often and with increasing detail. Videos showing her exercising in their new home gym, images of pricey meals and weekend retreats, and expertly set rooms. The situation reached a peak 6 months later when Mom called with news that was expected but nevertheless caught everyone off guard. "Nora, I need to tell you something, and I don't want you to hear it from someone else." I felt sick. This is how most talks begin, and trust me, they seldom end well. "What's wrong?" "Amelia and Daniel are getting divorced." My workplace chair gave apart under my weight. "What happened?" "I don't know all the details. Amelia says they grew apart, wanted different things. Daniel apparently wasn't supportive of her ambitions. That was Amelia's version anyway. I wonder what Daniel's side of the story would be." Saying, "I'm sorry to hear that," was my sincere intention. No matter how much I disliked Amelia, I never intended for her to be unhappy. "She's definitely struggling," Mom went on to say. "The house is too expensive for her to manage on her own, and Daniel's being difficult about the divorce settlement. She might have to sell." That was it. What the call was actually about. Saying, "That's tough," I began. I was hoping, "Well, I know you're doing well financially now. Maybe you could help her out, just temporarily, until she gets back on her feet." I was taken aback by its audacity. They wanted me to help Amelia get out of the financial jam she got herself into after years of treating me like a failure, ignoring my achievements, and excluding me from family gatherings. "Mom, I know it's a lot to ask. But she's your sister, Nora. Family helps family. Close relatives support one another. When Amelia breezed through community college and I struggled, where was that philosophy? Where was it when I was getting patronizing comments about my decisions in life while working retail jobs? In all the 30 years that I had spent attempting to gain acceptance into this family, where had it gone? I said, "I'll think about it," since I was not prepared to argue with her over the phone. "Thank you, sweetheart. I knew you'd understand. Amelia will be so relieved." I remained in my office for quite some time after the call ended, gazing at the financial documents scattered around my desk. I was excelling, above and beyond. There would be no noticeable effect on my finances if I helped Amelia. I wasn't asked if I could lend a hand, the question was, if I ought to. When Samuel returned home, he discovered me there, my gaze fixed on the papers. He then inquired, "Bad day?" He was informed about the phone call by me. I could feel his jaw clenching as I spoke, yet his attentive listening was unwavering. "Now that I've finished, I need to clarify this," he continued. "Your sister spent herself into debt trying to maintain a lifestyle she couldn't afford, is getting divorced partly because of the financial stress she created, and now your mother wants you to pay for her mistakes. That's about the size of it. And what did your mother say about all the times you could have used help? All the times Amelia got support that you didn't?" "Nothing, because that's different apparently." "Nora, you know I'll support whatever decision you make," Samuel said, taking a seat opposite from me. "But I have to ask, what do you think would happen if you said no?" "They'd be angry, disappointed. They'd probably stop speaking to me altogether. And would that be a loss?" The question was reasonable. In what ways might I be penalized? Infrequent phone conversations in which I was made to feel inferior. I received invitations to events where my presence was utterly neglected. Being a scapegoat for one's family is a luxury. "I am unsure," I admitted truthfully. "Part of me thinks it would be a relief, but they're still my family." Being related to someone doesn't give them the right to treat you badly, and it doesn't obligate you to enable their poor decisions. Obviously he was correct, but it's one thing to know something intellectually, and quite another to experience it emotionally. I mulled over the choice for several days afterward. My best friend Leah, who is always honest, was the one I spoke to. She asked, "Are you insane?" in response to my explanation of Mom's request. "These people have treated you like garbage for decades, and now they want you to pay for the privilege. Tell them to pound sand." Still, I couldn't help but reflect on Daniel, who appeared so frazzled and anxious while we were in the grocery store. Even though it was difficult, I couldn't help but feel bad for Amelia. No one is immune to the emotional toll that a divorce may take, even the ones who cause it. Ultimately, I gained clarity after speaking with Claire, Samuel's sister. Claire had a gift for sifting through people's feelings and getting to the core of issues. She was a family dynamics specialist therapist. "The question isn't whether you can afford to help," she stated one night over dinner. "The question is whether helping would actually be helpful." "What do you mean?" "If you bail Amelia out, what does she learn? That her choices don't have consequences? That she can always count on other people to fix her problems? Is that really helping her? Or is it just enabling her to continue making poor decisions? But if I don't help, she could lose her house. She could lose the house she bought with money she didn't have to impress people she doesn't even like. Would that really be the worst thing in the world?" Claire had a point. Assisting Amelia in evading the repercussions of her decisions would not impart any wisdom or influence her conduct. Putting it off would just make things worse when the time came for reckoning. A day later, I contacted Mom to inform her that I would not be providing Amelia with any funds. Intimacy, wrath, charges of self-centeredness, and betrayal were the typical responses. My mother sobbed as she expressed her disappointment in me. On the phone, Richard gave me a lecture about my responsibilities to my family. Even worse than before, Amelia herself called later in the week, and our chat was... Her voice was heavy with emotion as she cried out, "I can't believe you would leave me in this state. I'm your sister, Nora. How can you watch me lose everything and not care?" "I do care," I informed you. "But giving you money won't solve the real problem." "What real problem?" "The problem is that you're living beyond your means, and have been for years. Giving you money now would just enable you to keep making the same mistakes. So you're going to let me lose my house to teach me a lesson? What kind of person does that?" She abruptly ended our conversation, describing herself as the kind of person who's learned that sometimes love means saying no. What followed was a challenging few months. Unfortunately, Amelia did not win the house. Daniel would not continue making mortgage payments for a home he did not occupy, and she was unable to do so on her own. She had to sell most of her pricey furnishings since it wouldn't fit into her new, smaller apartment across town. Richard and Mom were upset with me. They cut me out of all future family get-togethers and made it plain that they blamed me for Amelia's problems. I didn't miss the irony. They had always rewarded me and Amelia for doing what was right for myself, and now I was being penalized for it. As the months went by though, an unforeseen event occurred. Amelia began to appear lighter without the burden of upholding her lavish lifestyle. Her posts on social media started to be less frequent but more authentic. She shared photos of herself reading, going for walks, and preparing meals in her tiny apartment kitchen, rather than boasting about her luxury items. She switched to a smaller company that allowed her more flexibility in her schedule and lower pay. She began treatment in an effort to manage the emotional and financial fallout of her divorce. Max, an unkempt little mongrel she got from a shelter, was in nearly every photo she shared, and he always seemed so happy to be alive. I unexpectedly crossed paths with her at the downtown farmers market 6 months after the divorce was finalized. For the first time in years, she appeared truly delighted as she bought vegetables. "Nora," she murmured, her voice betraying just astonishment rather than wrath. "Hey Amelia, how are you doing?" She pointed to her basket overflowing with fresh fruit and vegetables and said, "Good, actually. Really good. I'm learning to cook. Turns out it's kind of therapeutic." "That's great. You look peaceful." Laughter escaped her lips. "That's not a word anyone's ever used to describe me before, but yeah, I think I am. Losing the house was awful at the time, but it forced me to figure out what I actually wanted instead of what I thought I was supposed to want." "And what do you want?" "Simplicity. I think a life that fits me instead of one that looks good from the outside." We continued our conversation for a short while longer, and it was the most sincere exchange we had experienced in a long time. They hugged as we said our goodbyes. "I was really furious with you for not helping me," she admitted. While there wasn't an outright apology, I was surprised to receive more of an acknowledgement. "But I think you were right. I needed to figure this out on my own." Mom called again 3 weeks ago with an invitation. "I'm taking Amelia out for her birthday dinner," she informed me. We both realized it was an olive branch when she said, "Just a small celebration at that new place downtown. Would you like to join us?" Now that the crisis had passed and I had been right to not enable Amelia's bad choices, Mom was prepared to welcome me back into the family. "I will give it some thought," I replied. "Please do. It would mean a lot to Amelia and to me." Ultimately, I made the decision to go. I wasn't so much looking forward to getting back into the family dynamic as I was intrigued to see how things had changed and, perhaps, to see if I could sit at that table and still maintain the boundaries I'd put so much effort into establishing. Last night, while enjoying a meal at that pricey cafe, Mom gushed over Amelia's housewarming celebration from the previous year. "Your sister's housewarming party was absolutely delightful," Mom gushed as she sliced her fish. "When are you going to catch up?" I felt smacked in the face by the question. Mom just had to poke fun at me, even though we were supposed to be celebrating Amelia's birthday and a new chapter in her life. Despite all that had transpired, even after Amelia had admitted that her previous lifestyle couldn't continue, Mom continued to hold it up as an example for me to follow. At that moment, it hit me. Absolutely nothing had changed. Even if Mom would welcome me back to the table, I'll always be her failing daughter who couldn't keep up with her accomplished sister. It made little difference that Amelia's prosperity had been based on debt and delusion. Nobody paid attention to the fact that my life had become really solid and fulfilling. I realized I had finished apologizing when I looked at her sitting there with her fork raised, waiting for me to explain my smaller house, quieter life, and different choices. "Last year, I hosted mine," I declared in a composed manner. "Because you weren't invited." Her fork froze in midair. There was a great stillness afterward. The wine glass meant for Amelia's lips came to a halt. Incredulous, Richard raised his head from his phone. It seemed like everyone in the restaurant could feel that something major had transpired. Many emotions passed across Mom's face, including perplexion, pain, wrath, and finally a wounded dignity. At long last, she spoke up. "I don't understand. I bought a house 2 years ago. Samuel and I had a housewarming party last year. It was lovely. About 40 people, all of whom actually care about us. You weren't invited because you've spent the last 30 years making it clear that you don't care about my life unless it reflects well on you." "Nora," Amelia whispered softly. "Maybe we should—" "No," I replied, maintaining my gaze fixed on Mom. "I'm tired of pretending this is a normal family dynamic. I'm tired of being treated like a consolation prize and then expected to be grateful for scraps of attention." A tear or two formed in Mom's eye. "How can you say that? You're my daughter. I love you." "Do you?" "Because love isn't just a feeling, Mom. It's actions. It's showing up. It's being proud of someone for who they are, not disappointed in them for who they're not." She mentioned, "I am proud of you," but her voice didn't carry any significance. "When have you ever been proud of me? When I graduated from college working 2 jobs, when I started my own business, when I got married to a wonderful man who loves me? Because I don't remember any celebrations for those things." The tears were freely flowing at this point. "I didn't know you felt this way." "That's because you never asked. You were too busy comparing me to Amelia and finding me lacking." Amelia, who was fixed on her plate, seemed to be going along with it since being the favorite made her feel special. I glanced across at her. When Amelia raised her eyes to gaze at me, I thought I saw shame. "Nora, I refuse to hold you responsible for that," I went on to say. "We were kids, and kids take love wherever they can get it. But we're adults now, and I'm done playing this game." Getting to my feet, I placed my napkin on the tabletop. "I have a beautiful house with a husband who adores me, a successful business that I built myself. I have friends who value me, and a life that makes me happy. I don't need to catch up to anyone, because I'm not in a race." I withdrew the necessary funds from my wallet to pay for my supper plus a substantial gratuity. Saying, "Happy birthday, Amelia," I continued. "I genuinely hope you find what you're looking for." After that, I left.